This is my grandpa, and he's telling me some things about life as a child in World War II. Did you have an air raid shelter?
Yes. When the war started and we were told there's going to be bombing, my father built his own air raid shelter in our dining room. We cleared all the furniture out of the dining room, and he built just ordinary bricks and mortar. He didn't like the ones they used to issue, Anderson shelters and Morrison shelters, but they were too low. We were a big family, so he wanted us to have a higher wall, so he built his own air raid shelter inside. So we never had a dining room throughout the whole of the war. All we had was this room with a big shelter in it. And we all went to bed. When that siren sounded, my sister and I got out of bed, and we were put straight into a bed, which is already made up on the floor in the air raid shelter. We stayed there. We thought it was exciting. We weren't frightened because our mummy and daddy wouldn't let us be frightened. So we thought it was great fun. Picked up out of bed and put down in the shelter.
Did you go to school?
I'm glad you asked me that. I was a very lucky boy. I was born in 1934, and the war started in September 1939 when I was 5. Now, in those days, you went to school when you were 5. But because the war started, they didn't open our school for a year. So I didn't have to go to school for a year. And not only that, all the other boys who were at school, all the other children who were at school, they didn't go to school for nearly a year. And we all went around the street saying, "Good old Mr. Hitler, good old Mr. Hitler." Because we thought Mr. Hitler was good, you see, for starting the war, so we didn't have to go to school.
Did you get any sweeties?
No. Well, you used to get a few, but not many and not very exciting. We were all rationed. The ration was enough food for everybody, and we were in the wartime. People were healthier than they've ever been since because we didn't have too much. We had enough food, so we didn't have fat people. Everybody was healthy, and the food was enough. And if you were a hard worker, you worked with your body and your hands, you got more money than an office worker. Sorry, not more money, more food, and that was in your ration book. So if you were an office worker, your ration was a bit less than a hard manual worker who used his muscles. There was only a little bit of sugar, for instance, and I don't remember sweets. I do know we didn't have much fruit, and I didn't eat my first banana until I was 12 years old. And I tasted my first banana, for instance, because we didn't have any bananas during the war.
Did you have bicycles?
Yes. Oh, yes. Didn't have cars in those days. My daddy didn't have a car. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a telephone. And certainly now, when you all run around with your mobiles in your pockets, we didn't even have a telephone at home. Certainly didn't have a car. My father didn't get a car until I was 14 years old. And everybody went around on bicycles. People who went to work used to get out and go riding out on their bicycles. So it was good, because it meant my mother was never worried. I used to go out and play in the streets, and that was fine because there were hardly any cars. And a car was quite an exciting thing. We knew what every single car was because there were so few of them. And everybody went around on bikes. But of course, the trouble there was a lot of people didn't lock up their bikes, so there was a lot of bicycle thieves around. And so you were always very careful. And quite often, if you used to go out, group of us, we used to go out on our bicycles and go somewhere to do something, put all the bicycles in a heap and leave somebody sitting by the bicycles. Otherwise, somebody would come along and pinch our bicycles.
Did you, collect them?
You're talking about shrapnel? Yes. I was living in West London. East London was where the bombing was coming. But West London, after they bombed East London, they used to come over me and turn around and then go fly back to Germany again. And we used to have guns all the way around London, guns firing up into the sky. And those guns, when the planes came over, German planes came over, they fired at the spots. And the shells automatically went bang at a certain height because they knew that the bombers were flying at 10,000 feet. So they set the fuse on the shells so it would burst at 10,000 feet. And out would come shrapnel. Shrapnel are bits of metal from the exploding shell. Now, you collect things, don't you? What do you collect?
Go-Go's.
Go-Go's. Rubbish. I collected shrapnel. And not only did I collect these lumps of metal, sometimes I used to go out. If my mother wasn't there, I used to nick out while the sirens were still going. And she didn't know I was going out because I wanted to collect the shrapnel, because all of us, all the boys and the girls all around, used to go out in the streets. So I used to get out there early, if I could, to try and pick up bits of shrapnel. And we used to swap shrapnel. If we knew what the shrapnel was, it came from different sizes of shells, because you can tell by the shape of the shrapnel what shell it came from. We used to swap shrapnel. And if somebody had a rare bit, you would sometimes give up 5 bits of ordinary shrapnel in order to get this one rare bit of shrapnel. The other thing you can get were whole fuses. Fuse is the thing you had on the end to make it go bang. Sometimes they didn't work properly. And the thing would go bang, but the fuse would just blow up. If you got a fuse, gosh, that was like getting, I don't know, like 3 Christmases all coming at once if you got a fuse. The other thing you could get, which was worth a lot, was an actual bomb dropped by the Germans, which was an incendiary bomb. And what it did was it didn't go bang, it just made a great big flame to set things on fire. And if you can get one of those, it didn't go bang, but it stayed until the end, it burnt out. And you were left with a whole bomb, which was about that long and about that wide. Gosh, that was worth. If you were king in your street, if you had an incendiary bomb in those days, yep.
Were they not dangerous anymore then?
No, they burnt out, you see.
So it was just the empty casing.
Yeah, but some people, that's quite clear. Some people, you heard stories about, even now, today, in 2000, things are still going bang, because people used to collect interesting things and take them home and think that they were dead, but they weren't. They were alive, and people still get killed today.
Thank you.
So super. It was nice to remember things when I was a little boy.